the good news here is that he will have a little less power and a little less reputation, and hopefully the legacy that he is remembered by is by being the worst human being to ever hold this office. And may he forever be an example of what we will never allow to have happen again as a world united in fairness, justice, and equality. Welcome to Trending Trends Trend. I'm Benjaja. This is the daily show where I go and check out what's trending on YouTube every day. And today, what's trending on YouTube is America. The United States of America has just had, since 1800s or something like that, a bunch of people storm the Capitol building, pro-Trump supporters, which, if we want to say, we're surprised, I don't think anybody's surprised. In fact, I'm a little bit shocked that this wasn't stopped before it was able to happen. I don't understand that aspect of this whole thing. If none of us are surprised, which none of us are, I mean, I'm not in QAnon or something like that, but I still heard from people that this is what QAnon was wanting to do. I mean, my dad's a Trump supporter, like very serious Trump supporter. It's a very big problem. I don't know how to have a relationship with my father. I know I'm not alone in that. I know there's a lot of you looking back right now going, yeah, me too, dude. Anyway, let's watch today. What's trending is BBC News. Chaos in Washington as Trump supporters storm Capitol and force lockdown of Congress. We'll do it together. We'll hang out. We'll talk, or I'll talk, and we'll hopefully all agree or disagree. It's okay to disagree. It's just not okay to want to start taking out guns and shooting people and making other people's lives worse because your life isn't good. And that's what I feel like Trump supporters are. They want to make other people's lives as bad as theirs. Because it is hard to be happy when you have been swarmed by nasty intentions for a lot of your existence. I will stop talking. Let's watch a video. Before we watch a video, like, comment, subscribe to my channel. If it's too early and you feel like we just met, I totally understand that. Maybe I'll have you consent to subscription at the end of the video. That wasn't I'm not laughing. That's all right. Let's just watch. Here we go.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn in the past few hours, as thousands of supporters of President Trump stormed the US Capitol building, venting their anger at the victory of Joe Biden in the presidential election. They forced the evacuation and lockdown of Congress itself, where lawmakers were all set to approve the election result. Shortly before the clashes, President Trump had addressed his supporters near the White House, telling them that he would never accept defeat. Within the past hour, President-elect Biden called on Mr. Trump to tell his people to go home, and within minutes, that was indeed the message delivered from the White House. We'll be live on Capitol Hill shortly. First, we'll have this report by our North America editor, John Sopel.
All right, before we hear from John Sopel, everything that man just said is true. So all of these things have been happening, but, this has been happening for a while. See, in America, what happens is we have two parties that run the country, and it just swings from more extremities to more extremities. The second we have someone like Barack Obama making this country doing work with integrity and taking responsibility and just being a leader, just like that's a leader. If you don't like the Democrats, then you're going to be very upset with that wonderful representation of leadership, and then you're going to go do something like, well, why don't we put somebody in the government who isn't a politician? That'd be a really good idea. Hey, I want you to cook my dinner at your restaurant, but I don't want a chef. I don't want somebody who's been training to cook, my dinner. I will let that guy cook my dinner at your restaurant. That guy is a dog walker, and I feel like he might have some really cool outside perspectives. Oh, what a great idea. What a terrible idea. And not only that, but to have somebody like Donald Trump, who it's not even challenging to see that this person does not care about the interest of others. He is so self-interested. It's like we want to trick ourselves, or other people want to trick themselves that's not true. That maybe this businessman that hasn't done anything shady in his life is going to all of a sudden want to get more power so that he can do the right thing. Cool. Yeah. Okay.
The peaceful transfer of power, the cornerstone of American democracy, seemed a highly abstract concept today. As Trump supporters clashed with police as they tried, and succeeded, to storm the Congress, where America's elected leaders had gathered to certify the election victory of Joe Biden. Earlier, in a rally outside the White House, Donald Trump encouraged his loyal base to fight to overturn the result of this bitterly contested election.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength and you have to be strong.
Many of his supporters needing little encouragement to join the fight.
We're here to support, if violence happens, like it happens, but we're not going to start it. We're just like here to defend ourselves. Yeah.
Sorry, say that again.
I'm a Mexican immigrant. I support Trump. Freedom is paid for with blood, and tyranny always masquerades itself as safety and security, and that's what we're fighting against right now.
Outside the Capitol, the outer ring of security had been breached. The crowds had taken Donald Trump at his word, and they were taking the fight to the heart of American democracy. They were literally banging on the doors of Congress. And then some Trump supporters managed to get inside.
And then, in orderly fashion, they walked very leisurely, promenading through the aisle, looking at the statues. Interesting that they stayed inside of that. They look like a tour with signs.
Wandering the Capitol.
I know that's not the case, though.
There were tense and violent scenes with police who'll have never dealt with anything like this. These pictures appear to show a woman protester being shot inside the Capitol building. A stretcher was sent in. She was later given CPR.
Roma didn't fall in a day. It took a lot for that to happen, and I don't even know history that well. But we did this to ourselves. We got ourselves in this spot, and that's why it's really dangerous when we live in a world where money and power seems to be the only thing people are in competition for. It was like back when you were a kid, you just really wanted to get laid. You were like, when you were a kid and you never got laid before, you were like, all I care about is getting laid one day. I hope I get to snog with somebody, and you would do kind of whatever you could to get that opportunity. And as we get into our adulthood, if that starts to become priority number 2, priority number 1 seems to be money and power, and it's just so simple-minded and boring. I wish people aimed a little bit higher than that. Okay, here we go. Let's keep watching.
A protester breached the inner sanctum of the chamber. The vice president had to be removed to safety by his Secret Service detail. And then the joint session was adjourned. Earlier, the Republican Senate leader, for so long a loyal lieutenant of the president, turned on him with this withering assessment.
This election were overturned by mere allegations from the losing side.
if you don't know who this guy talking is, this Mitch McConnell character is, discredit whatever he's saying. I know whatever he's going to say right now is like good, relatively good. But this is somebody, this turtle man, has been supporting Donald Trump and all of the wackadoo stuff that Donald Trump has been doing for years. And a lot of these Republican people didn't have the sand or the spine or the awareness to repudiate anything that Donald Trump had been doing up till this moment. It took 14 days before Trump's leaving office for them to finally say, I'm going to go in a different direction than this guy. Well, now Mitch McConnell and all of your frickin' dumb hucks like Ted Cruz and others are now all turning away from Donald Trump. Well, you know what? Your party, the Republican Party, looks like there's going to be a big division because you supported this guy, and that's probably the best thing that can happen. I think that there should be a new Republican Party that starts called like the New Ruse or something like that. The New Ruse. And the New Ruse are new Republicans who might have conservative fiscal policy as their primary interest, but maybe they don't have to, want to control other people's bodies, like with abortion, legal stuff about abortion. Okay, let's just watch. Let's go.
She would enter a death spiral. We'd never see the whole nation accept an election again. Every 4 years would be a scramble for power at any cost.
And the Vice President, who's officiating over this joint session and has shown Donald Trump near slavish loyalty, also said it was not his role to overturn the verdict of the people. My oath to support and defend the Constitution constrains me from claiming unilateral authority to decide which electoral votes should be counted. And he went on, the presidency belongs to the people and to them alone. And the president-elect has gone on television to warn that American democracy is under unprecedented assault, and he made this appeal.
I call on President Trump to go on national television now to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution and demand an end to this siege, to storm the Capitol, to smash windows, to occupy offices, the floor of the United States Senate, rummaging through desks, on the Capitol, on the House of Representatives, threatening the safety of duly elected officials. It's not protest, it's insurrection.
Donald Trump has spoken. He called on his supporters to stand down, but condemnation, there was none.
This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special.
The chamber has emptied. Democracy put on hold.
Donald Trump
Evacuation
is,
and lockdown
oh great,
of Congress.
oh great.
Overthrow the
Donald Trump is like somebody that just has never been able to agree that they lost. Like, you lost. Big time. You lost. If he was in a swimming match, like swimming in a pool, he'd get out of the water probably and say something like, well, they swam in different water. It's like, no, they didn't. You're an idiot. They didn't swim in different water. You lost. They were faster than you and better than you, and you lost. And you deserve to lose because you didn't work that hard in training. Come on now.
people. Tonight, the shining city on the hill, as America likes to describe itself, feels as though the light of democracy is flickering dangerously. John Sokol, BBC.
If these were black Americans, this whole thing would be so different. And that's what is so frustrating. And I'm a white guy. I could only imagine how I'd be feeling if I were black. I mean, I can't imagine. I can't do it. I haven't lived in those shoes. But it's frustrating to see that during Black Lives Matter protests, during peaceful protests, the kind of resistance and the kind of force that those were met with, those were peaceful. I went to those and listened and heard people peacefully sharing about what it's like to be black in America, listening to all the different people that have been affected by the injustice and the unfair sets of terms that based on the color of your skin, you are unfortunately dealt. It's so sad. If these were black Americans doing this, they would have been met faster with more fire and gunpowders and beans and bags and all sorts of things and gas and even more violence and even more deaths if these were black Americans. And because these are white, nasty human beings, they were somehow able to get inside? How is that even possible? How do they even get that far? Like, how? It's so weird to think that they... Now, as my mom always said, whenever it comes to a breakdown, well, they set you up for a breakthrough. You can't have a breakthrough without a breakdown. Okay, well, this is a breakdown right here. So maybe there's an opportunity for a breakthrough. And hopefully we'll be able to come back from this and finally set some things right, set some things straight. I'm really happy to see that Joe Biden's cabinet are mostly comprised of multiracial people. I'm very happy about that. That means representatives at the top level of government are multiracial and looking out to make sure that everybody is represented fairly and equally, and it's about fucking time.
Washington.
John's report there, we'll be talking to him in a short while, but these
Disgusting.
are the images now in Washington,
Gross.
D.C. tonight. The president's message has been delivered. He's told people to go home. Some people have.
Go
But
to
as
bed.
you can see, there are plenty of people still around the Capitol Hill, still wanting to make their protests heard, still wanting to urge members of Congress not to ratify the election result. That's despite, by the way, Republican leaders on Capitol Hill saying that this protest is wrong. So those are the live images. What I'd like to do now is bring in two colleagues. One of them who's outside Capitol Hill there, Ali Makboul, and one inside who's Lebo Diseko. We'll come to Lebo in a second. But Alim, first of all, could you bring us up to date? What's happening there, and have the police drafted in more help by now?
Well, there was a lull for an hour or so. There were hundreds of protesters all the way up the steps of the building on every side, right up to the doors of the Capitol. As I say, there was a lull. Just as you were watching that report, in the last few minutes, the police finally started to use sound bombs and some form of tear gas, and you might be able to make out that they've cleared one level of the steps outside the Capitol building. Still lots of people still here. I was trying to get a sense through speaking to several of the people who stormed the building earlier whether this was something that was planned, and actually they said they were inspired by the words of the president who spoke earlier in the day to take back their country, and so they marched down here, but they saw that there was so little security. They said they felt it was easy to overwhelm that security, and they found themselves inside the building. They started knocking on doors. They entered into the chamber, but they said it hadn't been a plan, but they said they will continue to make their presence felt until the election result, they say, is overturned in a bid to do what the man they follow is telling them to do, which is to take back their country. This is what they translate that to be.
Good plan. That's funny because that's like the Republican Party's plan was to not have a plan and have Donald Trump show up and win a primary. It's like them, the Republican Party, it's a metaphor for them all like just going up the Capitol steps and just like going into the building. Well, it wasn't the plan, but we're here now. Why don't we just like, break some shit, put our feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk? I'm happy that my dad wearing the ox costume is there, representing loud and proud. But it's like they've never had a plan. they just go and then they're just like, oh, I'm here now. Let me just fuck some shit up. Dumb. They're using sound bombs. What are they using? Like Maroon 5 music to get everybody off those steps?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Still the action ongoing.
Yeah.
As I was telling us there, we're still hearing it in the background. Let's go inside the building, and Lebo is there for us. You've been there all the while, Lebo, and I'm just wondering what you made of the scenes we saw earlier on, and what's going on there right now. I can see that you've gone to a quieter area for the moment, but what's going on?
Just take a moment, because we'll bounce back from this, you know. I mean, I don't know. We've got 12 more days or 11 more days before we can swear Joe Biden into the presidency, and until that happens, I still think anything could happen.
Well, Hugh, we've been on lockdown here in these Capitol buildings for almost 4 hours now. Many of the people that I'm with actually work in these buildings. They work in the House of Representatives. I was speaking to a couple of women who have been watching these scenes playing out on the TV. They actually work here, saying to me that they were shocked at the level of disrespect for the democratic institutions of this country, seeing people with their feet up on the table of members of the House's desks. They're not even allowed to touch the desks on the floor. They saw them strewn around and treated with utmost disrespect, they said. I also spoke to a gentleman who works for a member of the House of Representatives. I asked him how he felt that now that Donald Trump has told his supporters to go home, he said it's too little, too late. He's called this an assault on the democratic institutions of this country. So, I mean, the general feeling here has gone from palpable shock to stunned disbelief, really, Hugh.
Lebo, many thanks once again, and for the latest there on the scene for us inside the...
There's been an assault on this democracy, there's been an assault on furniture, and, I mean, too far, too much furniture has been misplaced, misused, and abused, that furniture, and we are upset. No, I don't want to joke too much about the furniture thing. I know how much I'm passionate about furniture myself. But people did lose their lives because of this, and that's super real. And you know, to know that I have a father that encouraged and empowered this type of thing to occur. I mean, I literally got a text from my father 2 days, and we don't talk. We can't talk. We don't believe in the same set of truths. Can you imagine? We don't believe that an apple is an apple anymore. He calls an apple a potato, and he's convinced that it's a potato, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's an apple. And he's like, no, it's a potato, and I'm like, well, no, it's not. And so we can't, how do you relate to somebody when you live in a different reality? I mean, we got to talk to Dr. Strange in the multiverse or something if we want to figure that out. But, you know, every single person that supported Donald Trump and encouraged him, and for whatever weird reason, like, they fell in love with him. Like, my dad is, like, in love with Donald Trump. I mean, why? It's the weirdest relationship I've ever seen. I've never been in love. Maybe I loved Kobe Bryant in, like, a similar way, but I don't know if I would just do anything Kobe Bryant said. I'd be like, nah. At some point, if it's not related to being a good person, or, I mean, you can coach me on basketball and stuff, or athletics, you know, you've got a big range of credibility and authority there. Oh, dear.
Capital. In another part of D.C., Washington, D.C., we have John Sopel, our North America editor, whose report we saw earlier on. John, can we start, first of all, with the real significance of the scenes that we've been witnessing today in Washington, D.C. It was insurrection, according to Joe Biden. What else have people been telling you?
I think people are stunned, shocked, amazed. Clearly the security services have got some pretty tough questions to answer about why they weren't readier for what happened and what unfolded. And I think there is just this palpable sense of disbelief that America, which likes to lecture the rest of the world on how to be a good democratic society, is seeing its own shining beacon kind of looking rather tattered by what has unfolded today. And I think the politicians have got to ask themselves some pretty tough questions about whether they have contributed to this. Donald Trump saying, on the one hand, look, we love you, to the protesters, you're very special, but saying they've got to obey law and order. Well, Donald Trump at the same time is saying, no, we're not going to obey the laws that have been litigated. This has been to the courts 62 times, and they have found no evidence of fraud in this election.
It's 2 weeks just about to Inauguration Day, John, and that's the time clearly when Donald Trump is leaving office, against his will, we know, but leaving office at that point. When he told his protesters in that clip we saw earlier to go home, would that for you be the moment where he kind of signaled that he knew that this protest is up?
I'm gonna just, last thing I want to say before it's all gonna end soon. But in response to what that gentleman said about, you know, America kind of being the democracy tutor, if you will, or the beacon of democracy, you know, it's a loss for America, sure, but it's also a loss for democracy abroad. Sorry. You know, sorry that happened. Every other democracy, because you know, this just shows the fragility of democracy and how it takes everybody to uphold democracy for it to stay together and stay strong. So hopefully this unites the democratic people. I'm not saying Democrats, I'm saying people that are pro-democracy. Hopefully this unites us and lets us all understand that we have to really take care of what we stand for and make sure we stand for something and don't bend the knee to anybody who wants to encourage a world where people aren't treated fairly and with equality. So we'll play this out. Subscribe to my channel. I'm a comedian that is obviously very angry and needs to be in some serious form of therapy versus just talking to myself into a camera every day. But until I can afford that, because our country doesn't have healthcare, universal healthcare, I pay $320 a month for my healthcare, and I'm very healthy and I don't see the doctor much. And then when I go to the doctor, I have to pay an $85 copay just to go to the doctor. Then when I go to the doctor and she recommends me that I go to therapy, I then have to meet with a therapist, but then there's a $125 fee just to walk through the building and get consulted by somebody who's going to set me up with a therapist. Do you see the problem, right? America has a lot of problems. And then I watch Lakers basketball last night, streamed. I watched it illegally. It was streamed by a Canadian channel, I guess. And I'm watching all these Canadian commercials about, like, are you feeling sad? Well, we want you to know as Canada that we got your back and that it's okay to feel sad and that you should go here. It's like Canada has it down. They're so nice. Okay.
Well, that is what I think is the central contradiction of the Donald Trump message, which is you can't say we believe in law and order and we're asking you to fight and stay strong, which is what he said in his speech outside the White House earlier on today to all those supporters. And I was very struck by just how totally 100% those tens of thousands of people believe that the election was stolen, that Joe Biden is a Chinese puppet of the Communist Party, that fraud has gone on a massive scale. These people have been told that, fed that on a diet for weeks. Now telling them to go home may be a little bit late in the day for that sort of change in behaviour.
John, we'll have another word in a short while. Thank you very much. John Sopel there, our North America editor, with the latest in Washington.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, Donald Trump is just a little boy who is really upset that he didn't win, and he wants everybody else to burn as he burns for his sins, and he doesn't care about his supporters. He doesn't care about my father. He doesn't care about anything other than himself, his money, his power, and his reputation. And the good news here is that he will have a little less power and a little less reputation, and hopefully the legacy that he is remembered by is by being the worst human being to ever hold this office, and may he forever be an example of what we will never allow to have happen again as a world united in fairness, justice, and equality. Okay, I'm done for today. Thank you for coming to my channel. Subscribe, like, comment, subscribe. I want to host the Oscars by 2030, so I need your help to get there. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, comment, say something. The secret passcode, if you want me to shout you out in tomorrow's episode, will be flippity-doo-dah-day. So write in the comments flippity-doo-dah-day if you want me to shout you out in tomorrow's episode of this show. All right, when you feel like life isn't going to get any better, just know it always gets better. Stay good. Let's blast off. Ben Force. And then this awkward moment where I shut it all down and I gotta go. Hey, what's going on? It's Benjaja. If you like that video, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That's, I mean, you saw that coming, right? You knew I was gonna say that to you, right? I mean, what else was I gonna say? That I'm gonna host the Oscars by 2030? I mean, that's just common sense.